morning, everybody. Thank you so much to Sean for the invitation to speak with you today. I am just so excited and inspired by all the youth in the room who are already doing so much to make a change in your communities. You guys should really congratulate yourself, and I'm excited to talk to you about some opportunities and ideas for how you can make a change to improve the quality of education that you're receiving and that youth all over the state of California are receiving. And so I'm here today to talk about your right to a quality education. What I hope you'll walk away with today are three things. One's a deeper understanding of what your legal right is to a quality education in California. Two, an understanding of how many students are currently not, how the state is failing to live up to that right for so many students across the state. And three, what you can do about it. So I hope to leave you with some concrete ideas of how you can get involved in the movement to improve public education in California and enforce your right and all students' right to a quality education in the state. So I guess I need my little clicky thing. Cool. Can everybody hear me okay? And is the sound okay back there? Cool. All right. So let's go back and talk about the California Constitution. There's a picture of it from 1849. It goes way back. And our founding forefathers, and let's face it, they were mostly fathers in California in our early constitutional debates, they were pretty smart. And they wrote the right to a quality education into our state constitution. Back in 1849, when they got together and were putting the Constitution together, they actually voiced some pretty strong language in the debates about how the state wanted to create a public education system that would attract families, because we had so many single men working in, the mines in California. They wanted to attract families, and you needed good schools to do that. They said we should put every last farthing we have into creating a good public education system in California. And I think it's important to understand a little bit of that history in our current context, where we have such a huge budget crisis in California and where funding for schools is being cut so dramatically. So the California Supreme Court has had plenty of opportunities over the past 150 years to interpret the right to education under our state constitution. And they've done that in a variety of different instances. And what they've, if you take all of those cases together, the language from those cases, what they've said is that California students like you have the right to an education that will prepare you to do three things. The first is to be civically engaged. Your education, when you graduate from high school, should prepare you to vote. Raise your hand if you took a look at the ballot pamphlets for the state of California in the past election in November. Okay, your parents, it was like 200 pages that you had to read to make an informed decision about our ballot initiatives, about the candidates for state office, and then in your local, I don't know what the local ballot initiatives were here, but in San Francisco, where I live, there were 15 of them, and it was another 200 pages. So you need to be well educated to be able to meaningfully participate and vote in our system of direct democracy in California, where we have so many ballot initiatives. You need a quality education to be able to meaningfully serve on a jury, to pass judgment on your peers, to weigh facts and evidence on a jury in California, and to serve your community, to be a part of boards, to volunteer in your community, to really be an active member of community life in this country. That's what it means to be part of a democracy here, and you need a quality education to do that. That's something the court has recognized. In addition, the court has recognized that you need a quality education to participate and live in our diverse society. Public schools in this country are something that brings together students from all different backgrounds, and the public schools are really our melting pot, so to speak. And when you work on the school paper with students of different backgrounds, when you're on a sports team with them, when you're in class exchanging ideas, that's where you really develop relationships that form the fabric of our society, and the court has recognized that. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, the court recognizes that you need a quality education to succeed in college and career. In order to be able to get a job that will pay you a decent wage and allow you to contribute to our economy, you need a quality education. I probably don't need to tell you that many students in California are being denied their fundamental right to a quality education. And I just want to share with you, there are a lot of statistics out there. You can kind of get buried in statistics. I want to share with you what I think are a few of the most powerful. In California, 1 in 3 freshmen who begin 9th grade don't graduate 4 years later. So let's just take a look around in this room and imagine a third of the students in this room not graduating 4 years later. That's truth in California right now. And this chart is put together by UCLA's Institute for Democracy, Education, and Access. They put out a great report every year called the California Educational Opportunity Report. And it just shows you where we lose students along the pathway to college. Just 65 of the 100 9th graders who start school in the 9th grade graduate 4 years later. And of those, just 1 in 4 have fulfilled the requirements, the A to G requirements, to be eligible for 4-year university in the state. The other statistic I think is super powerful is that just half of California public school students are proficient on our own state standards. What the state has said all students should know and be able to do by the time they graduate from high school, just half of California students can do that. For low-income students, students of color, and English learners, these numbers are worse. And I know in Palo Alto this has been an issue that you guys have talked about, that your school board has talked about, and I think there was a report that came out this past year talking about some of the achievement gap in Palo Alto. Does anybody know any of those statistics can share in the audience today? Nobody wants to speak up. I think what I read in the paper, and this is coming from the paper, I haven't seen the actual report, is that something like 80 to 90% of white students and Asian students in Palo Alto graduate prepared for college, but something around 50% of African American and Latino students graduate prepared for college in Palo Alto. And so the achievement gap is very real, even in a district like Palo Alto Unified, which is one of the best resource districts in the state. The pathway to college that UCLA puts out, they broke it down for African American and Latino students. So you can see that the numbers of students who graduate in these subpopulations is just about half, and even fewer graduate. Just 15 out of 100 graduate A to G eligible, ready for UC and CSU. So why are these numbers the way they are? Why are California students so far behind their peers across the nation? And when you look at sort of the tests that are our national report card, it's called the NAEP. And even, you take California's students who are the most affluent and come from, families where the parents are college educated, and compare those students to students of a similar demographic in other parts of the country, California students are still lagging behind. So it cuts across the field of California students. All students in California are lagging behind their peers from across the nation. I submit to you that one reason we're lagging the rest of the country is because we spend far less on education per pupil in California than most other states. So here's California. We're number 43 out of 50 in terms of what we invest in our students per pupil. Just about $8,800 per pupil, and everybody throws different numbers out. You can quibble on the exact numbers, but there's pretty much agreement that we're at the bottom of the barrel in what we spend per pupil. States like New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Vermont are spending 15 grand a person, a student, on their education. So kind of makes sense that if you spend more, you're going to get more on the other end. You get what you pay for. So in California, we have just simply fewer adults in the system to provide an education for all students. So the number of students per teacher in California is higher in this state than in every single other state. We're 50th and ranked across states in what our student-teacher ratio is. We have bigger class sizes here. Raise your hand if you think the bigger your class is, the harder it is to get the content, to learn the content in that class. Yeah, okay, this is it's not rocket science here. If the teacher has 35, 40, 45, 50 kids in a class, and this is true across the state right now, especially in high school, you're just not going to get the individualized attention you may need to succeed in that class. And then when you look at other numbers, we're 50th in terms of K-12 students per librarian, and we are like so far behind the rest of the nation. The rest of the country, thanks. We got about 800 students per librarian. We have 5,000. Okay, you know, a lot of schools don't have any librarians at all. Never mind a full-time librarian, someone to help you with your research if you're doing a research paper in high school. Budget cuts in the recent years in California are shrinking educational opportunities even further. And I should mention that the numbers we talked about a couple slides earlier about per pupil spending in California, that was in 07, 08. So it's gotten worse in the past couple years because those numbers don't reflect the recent budget cuts. We don't have updated numbers. I'm curious to know how budget cuts are affecting your schools in Palo Alto. I think most of you go to Palo Alto Unified. Is that right? Raise your hand if you go to Palo Alto Unified. Okay, not most of you, I guess. You come from all over the peninsula. Does anybody want to share a couple examples of how budget cuts are affecting you in your schools? Have you noticed a change in the past year or two? Yeah.
They've cut more teachers. I remember the day that they passed out those pink slips, and I had to say goodbye to like 4 teachers.
4 teachers.
So then they brought in these new, fresh teachers. And did not know what they were doing, and it was just like, it was devastating because a lot of those teachers were like really inspirational to the student body, and then they brought in these things that were trying to, that came in right after the teachers. It wasn't even like a weekend thing or giving us time to adjust. It was just like this person.
So the way our system is built, we've had to lay off. The districts by law have to send out those pink slips on March 15th. So they don't even know how much money they're going to get from the state, and they're trying to figure out how many teachers can we have next year. And so they give out more pink slips than they probably have to, just because they don't know how much money they're going to get the next year. And then you end up, they need to hire teachers back. They have the money to do it, but the teachers that they laid off have gone to find other jobs, and so they hire, you know, whoever's still looking for a job. How are budget cuts affecting your school?
Well, they're not like really affecting them, but they're asking a lot more from the parents.
Okay.
Like you'll go into the parking lot and there'll be all these like teachers out there trying to ask you for like fundraising, and we're like, go. Like I was dropped off once and I was like, go, because they like knock on your window and they're like, hey, would you like to raise some money for our school? I mean.
That's a really great point. So in some schools, parents can step up and fill those gaps. In other schools, maybe in schools in more low-income communities, the parents simply don't have the economic wherewithal to fill that gap. And so those schools, I mean, across the state, we're seeing kindergarten classes that are now 30 kindergartners in a classroom with no aides. Think about that. 30 5-year-olds in a classroom with no other adult in the classroom to help them run that. How many of you guys babysit? Have you taken care of a 5-year-old recently? Think about 30 in the room and trying to educate those kids. Districts across the state have had to shorten the school week the school year by a whole week. So think about what you learn on a good week at school. That's kind of a lot of information, and that's cut for the year. So
they also like, just a quick thing, they charge to do like get involved in the school, so that kind of like discourages someone of a low income family to get involved. So you might not be able to get active in your school like they want you to because they're charging you to play basketball.
There's a court case about that right now. The ACLU has actually brought a suit because that's unlawful. It's really clear. The California Supreme Court has said you can't charge fees for school activities. Okay, so
we just cancel them all for everyone then, or they just get rid of them? Like Berkeley, what they're doing?
I don't know what's going on in Berkeley right now.
They can't have any sports teams.
So if you offer, you know, what the law says is if you offer an extracurricular activity or a curricular activity, has to be free to everybody. So, so what we've been talking about really is a school system, a funding system that's fundamentally broken. And there is a broad consensus that this is what's wrong in California. Even Governor Schwarzenegger's Committee on Education Excellence, he came up with a big committee, they came out with a big report in 07, they agreed, okay? But Sacramento's really done nothing about it. There's like paralysis in Sacramento. They just can't move to fix our school funding system. And it's not that students and parents and others across the state haven't been asking for change and pressuring for change. This July, a coalition of grassroots community groups of students and parents from across the state called the Campaign for Quality Education filed a lawsuit challenging our system of school finance in California as unconstitutional. It's called Campaign for Quality Education versus California. And at the same time, school districts from across the state and the California School Boards Association and a coalition of others, California PTA, filed a lawsuit called Robles-Wong versus California. And these two lawsuits are really pushing California to change its school finance system and asking the court to make that happen because the political process has really failed there. And I'm going to hit play on a video that I think can explain why students and parents wanted to file suit better than I can. And I'm trying to, if there's some tech person that could help me get there really quick. Is there tech around? No? Okay, I'm gonna. Hey, yeah? All right, I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna, oh, can we play the video? Yeah, cool, thanks. It's short, it's 4 minutes, but I think it does a better job. fairschoolsnow.org.
Y creemos que los mejores demandantes serán nuestros propios hijos.
We think the best plaintiffs to sue the state of California are our own kids.
Porque ellos conocen la verdadera realidad en la que estamos viviendo.
No one else could better explain the situation that they're living in.
I want to be a doctor, police, and a firefighter.
I want to be a pediatrician.
Computer teacher.
A doctor.
A news reporter.
A firefighter.
Go to a four-year college.
I want to go to college and major in psychology.
After I graduate, I intend to be a graphic artist.
Bueno, los jóvenes en este tiempo pues son el futuro del mañana. Ellos deberían de estar preparados pues para tener mejores trabajos, mejor calidad de vida y pues esa es la importancia, es el futuro.
The state needs to provide every student a high-quality education because it's key to individual success in our society.
California needs to accept this as a responsibility because our economy depends upon it.
I want to have all the opportunities to better myself.
We are California's next generation of leaders.
Mucha gente dice que la primaria no es paso a la universidad. La primaria es el primer paso a la universidad. Si preparamos a nuestros niños en la primaria, seguro que ellos van a ir a la universidad.
We've had successive years of budget cuts in our school district, and what this means is we've laid off a lot of teachers.
Classes are getting bigger.
You don't get the individual attention that students need. Students are not able to focus in class.
The school is talking about cutting the electives and only having general ed classes.
Next year, in the middle school that I just left, there won't be any music at all.
My son loves art. I have to go to another program outside of the school for him to have art.
All of these are programs that enhance student achievement, that enhance student engagement.
My school has recently cut summer school, which is a big downer because I was planning to take Algebra 2 during the summer. It was like a good way of getting ahead of school, but now we can't.
Finding out that there wasn't any more summer school kind of scared a lot of the students about graduating.
At my school, we don't have updated textbooks. We're learning things from books that were written decades ago. The SAT test, the ACT test, all of those tests are being updated and we don't have the correct materials.
There are elementary schools in both of the districts where I've worked that don't have computer labs, or they don't have libraries, or they may have the books and the computers, but they don't have any staffing.
The school has run out of paper. I mean, you go into the office to copy something, and they say, we have no paper at school in Sacramento, California, which I think is absurd.
My child is no different from any other child in the state. You know, the education should not be for the elite. It should be for everyone to have a right to go to school.
We have done a lot of campaigns, letters and protests and emails and all that, and I think this has come to the last resort.
We are ready as parents to lock arms in one united voice and demand change.
This lawsuit is trying to address a long festering problem.
The state legislature, the politicians of the state have fundamentally failed.
We have a huge dropout rate. We've got to get this fixed.
I think that it's time the governor and the state of California took notice about the problems in education. If it takes a lawsuit to do that, then I'm in full support.
I support the lawsuit.
I'm supporting this lawsuit.
I support the lawsuit.
I support the lawsuit.
I support the lawsuit because it will benefit me, my younger sister who was in elementary school, and my community.
I want for myself and other generations to come to be prepared for the real world.
My brothers and sisters are in 3rd and 5th grade, and I want them to have a better education than we have.
Because it gives everyone an equal chance.
I support it because you're talking about my future and because I'm worth it.
With a couple of thoughts about how you can support this lawsuit and how you can make a difference. Get involved, come to Sacramento, talk to your legislative leaders. The Campaign for Quality Education is looking for new members, so join, get involved. They're having a conference actually today that I'm going to. Join us on Facebook. There's a link at the end, and go to Fair Schools Now, send this video around, spread the word. Thank you all.